A week before the wedding, Asher asked me to lend my wedding dress to his first love. Luna's first red carpet event after returning to the country must be grand. She'll return the wedding dress to you right after the red carpet. Don't be so stingy. My heart gradually grew cold. Our 7-year relationship couldn't compare to the premiere of his first love who had just returned to the country. So I learned to be generous. I gave up the wedding dress. And I also gave up the man. Luna's first red carpet event after returning to the country is of vital importance. Lend her your wedding dress to wear. Asher had a cold expression on his face. It was as if he was describing a trivial matter. I clenched my fists tightly, trying my best to control my emotions. Asher. We're getting married next week. You should know how important the wedding dress is to me. Asher frowned slightly, and there was a hint of impatience in his voice. She'll return the wedding dress to you right after the red carpet event tomorrow night. It won't delay the wedding at all. Don't be so stingy. Just as he finished speaking, his phone screen lit up. The name Luna was clearly displayed on the screen. Asher didn't show any signs of discomfort. He picked up the phone and said to me, "I don't want to force you. Think about it carefully." Then he got up and left. The moment he answered the call, his originally cold voice instantly became gentle. "What's wrong? Don't worry. When have I ever broken a promise to you? I promise it won't delay your red carpet." Asher's voice grew more and more distant. And my heart also gradually grew cold. Asher used to love me deeply. He always put me first in everything and couldn't bear to let me suffer even the slightest bit of grievance. Until Luna returned to the country. The once meticulous love gradually faded away and evaporated bit by bit. Just because Luna had soiled her high-end custom-made dress and couldn't attend the wedding-themed fashion dinner tomorrow night. At a crucial moment, just a week before our wedding, Asher ordered me to lend my wedding dress to her. He showed his favoritism blatantly and didn't care about my thoughts at all. The feeling of sadness piled up and swelled. I looked at the man who was leaning against the window in the distance, looking gentle as he was on the phone. Suddenly, I felt that our 7-year relationship was nothing but weariness. It was time to let go. So when Asher came back and sat down after finishing the call, I discreetly wiped away the tears from the corner of my eye. "Have you figured it out?" His voice was still cold. But I didn't care anymore. "Yeah. I have." I nodded. And the corners of my lips turned up slightly. "She's just borrowing the wedding dress. Not my husband. I'm not that stingy." Asher paused in the middle of drinking tea and looked at me with an unreadable expression. Seeing that I didn't react much, he secretly let out a sigh of relief. "What nonsense are you talking about? She's not that ignorant." I smiled but didn't say anything. He said, "Luna wouldn't be." What he meant was that as long as Luna clearly showed that she liked him, he would not hesitate to abandon me. In his heart, Luna was far more important than I. His fiancé. There were 6 days left until the wedding. Luna came to our house to pick up the wedding dress accompanied by Asher. The moment she saw me, she smiled brightly, like a delicate flower. But the words she said were full of a strong green tea flavor. "I'm so sorry, Yuki. My dress got dirty so suddenly. And there wasn't enough time to borrow another high-end custom-made wedding dress. I even decided not to attend the red carpet. But Asher insisted that this is my first red carpet event after returning to the country. And it's very important for my acting career after coming back. I must outshine everyone and make a stunning debut. So I had to trouble you. Thanks to your generosity and understanding. I don't even know how to thank you." Although she said she was thanking me, I couldn't hear even the slightest bit of gratitude in her words. Just as I was about to speak, Asher's indifferent voice came from behind me. "Just make a good appearance on the red carpet. There's no need to thank her for such a trivial matter." I frowned. I turned around and looked at Asher coldly. He was stunned for a moment, and immediately put his arm around my shoulders. "What I mean is that our Yuki is the most considerate and generous. She definitely won't care about such small things." This was Asher's usual trick. He always made decisions on his own. After making me unhappy, he would try to justify himself. He would put me on a high pedestal so that I wouldn't be able to lose my temper with him. In the past, in such situations, I was always angry and helpless. Now I finally understand that when he makes decisions about my affairs without my consent, it means he doesn't love me and doesn't respect me. So this time, I didn't spare Asher's feelings at all. I took half a step back to avoid Asher's embrace and said with a cold expression, "Just leave after you get the dress. I'm not feeling well and need to rest. I won't see you out." Asher seemed not to have expected that I, who had always been obedient, would actually treat him coldly in front of an outsider. His brows furrowed slightly, and he was faintly displeased. He didn't even ask me where I wasn't feeling well. Instead, he let go of the arm around me and pushed Luna to leave together. Before the door closed, Luna's aggrieved voice came from outside. "Asher, does Yuki not like me?" In response to her, came Asher's cold and heartless voice. "That's just her personality. She's not likable. You don't need to care about it." My heart was stabbed with pain. Asher never used to say such things about me. After being in a relationship for 7 years, there were traces of Asher's existence in almost every corner of my house. I replaced the couple's throw pillows on the sofa, removed the photo of us on the desk, and took away the refrigerator magnets we bought during our travels. All the things related to Asher were packed into boxes. The things that could be worn or used were thrown into the old items recycling bin. The precious jewelry was sent to an auction, and the money was donated to a charity organization. 7 years was a long time. But it only took me half a day to part with the past. After finishing all this, I felt refreshed all over. When I was lying on the sofa and looking at my phone, I saw that Luna had made it to the trending topics because she was the first in the world to wear a top luxury high-end custom-made wedding dress. As a second-tier actress, being able to get top luxury resources showed that she had an extraordinary background. When netizens were speculating that she was a wealthy daughter, the top-tier star Finn walked the red carpet wearing a high-end custom-made suit of the same brand. Some sharp-eyed netizens noticed that their outfits were exactly the official matching set of that brand. During the interview, the reporter asked Finn if he had made an appointment with Luna in advance. As the only son of the wealthy Finn family, Finn didn't hide his confusion and squinted his eyes. "Who? I don't know her." Because of this sentence of not knowing her, the two of them simultaneously topped the trending topics. I watched Finn's interview video repeatedly, as well as Luna's aggrieved expression when she learned the news and the live broadcast footage from the backstage, and couldn't help laughing out loud. I gave Finn the close. It was the suit that Asher was supposed to wear at the wedding. Not long after the trending topic escalated, Asher called to question me. "Why did you give my clothes to someone else without permission? How can I wear clothes that someone else has already worn?" I could almost imagine his furious expression and let out a cold laugh. "Finn will return the clothes to you after walking the red carpet. It won't delay the wedding. What are you being stingy about?" These were the words he said to me yesterday. I gave them back to him word for word today. Asher was momentarily at a loss for words and couldn't come up with a retort. At this moment, a grieved voice came from the receiver. "Asher, what should we do? Some people on the internet are already scolding me for deliberately hyping up and creating a stir." It was Luna. So, when Asher said he had social engagements in the evening, he was actually accompanying Luna. Asher's breathing was heavy, and he raised his voice. Yuki, if you didn't want to lend the wedding dress, you could have told me earlier. You shouldn't have taken revenge on Luna in this way. Anyway, having fulfilled my obsession, you were wrong in this matter. I want you to come and apologize to Luna immediately." I suppressed my smile, and a layer of coldness covered my heart. "Asher, do you think that I have to marry you?" Asher was stunned for a moment. "What do you mean?" By the moonlight coming through the window, I looked at the brightly lit river bridge in the distance. I felt that the early summer night was also freezing cold to the heart. "Asher, let's break up." In fact, Asher and I were deeply in love before. When we first met, he was still an unknown poor guy. He lived in a cold, damp, and old rented house in the suburbs to save money. In order to give me a birthday gift, he wore a bulky mascot costume and handed out flyers in the amusement park for a week, and gave me a string of zircon bracelets. 300 yuan was enough for his living expenses for a week. I felt sorry for his hands that were chapped by the cold wind. He felt sorry for the simplicity of my birthday gift and vowed to make a name for himself and give me the best things in the world. Later, after he achieved success and fame, he indeed gave me many valuable jewelry pieces. But no matter how many gifts he gave me, he couldn't stop himself from lying to me that he was on a business trip to pick up Luna at the airport and missing my birthday. That night, I saw the back of a man wearing a black custom-made suit in Luna's video photo. The delicate and dazzling ruby cufflink on his wrist. It was the anniversary gift I gave Asher last year. I didn't cry or make a scene. I sat on the bed for a whole night. Until the next morning. Asher knocked on my door in a hurry and hugged me with guilt. Yuki, I miss you so much. Happy birthday. The belated birthday gift was an exquisite diamond brooch. It was valuable. But the style was old-fashioned. And the pink diamond necklace that he once hid in the drawer of his study was flaunted by Luna in the center of a pile of gifts last night. Asher had changed the gift temporarily. It was as if it was a sign that in just one night, he had changed his heart. Later, I learned that Luna was his first love in high school. Because of family changes, she went abroad in her sophomore year of high school. This secret love affair ended without a result, and during the 7 years, Asher never mentioned Luna's name to me even once. It took me a month to accept the reality. 6 days before the wedding, I proposed to break up, but Asher thought I was joking. Enough. Yuki. There should be a limit to your jealousy. During the few seconds of silence, the sound of footsteps came from the receiver. Until there was no longer Luna's complaint in the background, Asher softened his tone and said to me in a magnanimous attitude, I didn't think it through properly. I shouldn't have asked you to lend the wedding dress to Luna. But you were also wrong. We can call it even. As he spoke, he let out a sigh. As if he was helpless and troubled. I'll find time to accompany you to try on the wedding dress tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. The wedding will be held as scheduled. Don't mention breaking up again in the future. He was certain that I was just saying angry words, and that I wouldn't be willing to break up with him. I somehow felt like laughing. I didn't know where Asher got his confidence from. He said he would accompany me to try on the wedding dress. But Asher didn't pay any attention to me at all. Luna gained a wave of fans for her red carpet look. It also made more people start to pay attention to her background and speculate that she is deliberately riding on Finn's popularity. It made her have a faint tendency to become popular for the wrong reasons. To appease her, Asher bought the gemstone necklace she liked at a high price and gave her several scraps to choose from. I didn't care about these things originally. But I couldn't stand having a gossipy and talkative Finn. Finn sent me several pieces of gossip news about Asher and Luna in a row. The suspected love affair of a popular young actress is exposed, and her mysterious boyfriend picks her up in a luxury car. An actress with the surname L has a late-night meeting with a mysterious man. And the two go in and out together and behave intimately in each video. Asher's face was mosaiced, with a little inquiry. I knew that these gossip news were released with Luna's permission, and she was afraid of making Asher angry. So she covered his face. Asher couldn't possibly not know. He just indulged her blindly. After sending these, Finn adorized me unceremoniously. Yuki, Hede. Your standards for writing songs and choosing clothes are very high. But your taste in choosing men is really not good. I didn't give a definite answer. I sent him the lyrics I had just filled in. After Finn received the file, the screen kept showing, the other party is typing. But I didn't wait for the next message for a long time. When we were preparing for the wedding, Asher was afraid that I would be tired. Except for the wedding attire for the two of us. All other preparatory work was handled by a professional team. You just need to be the most beautiful bride. I promise that everything else will meet your aesthetic standards and make you the happiest woman in the world. Now when I recall these words, I just feel they are hypocritical and ironic. I'm not good at socializing and don't have many friends. So most of the wedding guests were Asher's business friends. I only invited Yuki. For this reason, I specially went back to the Welfare Institute. I told her the news that the wedding was cancelled and Asher and I had broken up. She was silent for a while. And then gently hugged me. Child. There aren't many 7-year periods in life. Since you've made a decision, don't look back. Move forward bravely. No matter which path you choose. The director will support you. She is the one who raised me. She witnessed the whole process of how Asher and I met, got to know each other, fell in love, and broke up. I didn't cry when I found out that Asher had lied to me. I didn't cry when Asher ordered me to borrow a wedding dress either. But in front of my closest elder, I finally couldn't hold back my tears. There aren't many 7-year periods in life. Asher almost occupied my entire youth. In fact, if he couldn't forget Luna, he could have told me earlier. I'm not the kind of person who clings. I would have let go. He shouldn't have been reluctant to part with my company and missed Luna, who was far away abroad, in the warmth I gave him. He wasted my time and didn't deserve my love. I was in a bad mood on the way back. I specially went to the hotel to pack a dessert. When I left, I met Asher and Luna head-on. I was stunned for a moment. I quickly averted my gaze and didn't stop walking. Unexpectedly, when we passed each other, Asher grabbed my arm. His eyebrows furrowed slightly, and he explained anxiously. Yuki, Luna just returned to the country and is now support. I accompanied her here because I was worried that she would be bullied at the dinner party. That's all. Please don't misunderstand. He should have been my support. At this moment, even though I had mentioned the breakup to him, he still chose Luna without hesitation and didn't want Luna to be wronged at all. His preference was so extreme that it made me feel an inexplicable sense of disgust. I slapped his hand away and said in a calm voice, "It doesn't matter. President Asher doesn't need to report to me about what he does." When these words reached Asher's ears, he thought I was being jealous for no reason and being unreasonable. Because there were many people around, he forcefully dragged me aside. "Okay. Being jealous for 2 days is enough. If you're more jealous, you'll be disobedient. I've already arranged to try on the wedding dress tomorrow. Get up early, and I'll pick you up." I turned my head to avoid his hand that was about to touch my hair, and said in a deep voice, holding back my disgust, "I'm flying to Hong Kong City tomorrow. I don't have time. There will be an industry salon in Hong Kong City the day after tomorrow. And I received the invitation half a month ago. Since the event was held close to the wedding date, I have been hesitating whether to go or not. Now that I've mentioned the breakup, there's no reason to hesitate anymore." Asher knew about this. His eyes were dark, and he asked in a lowered voice, Yuki, we're getting married this weekend. How important is your work? Do you really have to go to Hong Kong City at this critical moment? Do you have any sense at all?" I looked up and my gaze swept over Luna, who was standing behind him with a nervous expression. "Do you have the right to question me?" Asher was stunned for a moment. He took half a step forward aggressively, but was stopped by Luna, who grabbed his arm. She still had that considerate look and gently persuaded Asher. "Forget it, Asher. If Yuki is busy with work, I can help her try on the wedding dress. The wedding dress she wore last time fit me very well. I believe I can be of help this time." After saying that, she glanced at me triumphantly. Unexpectedly, Asher didn't scold her. Instead, he looked at me in silence. He was trying to threaten me with this method to stay obediently and not go to Hong Kong City. Yuki, don't be willful. This scene was really ridiculous. Asher didn't believe that I was willing to break up and insisted on holding the wedding on his own initiative. Luna pretended to be magnanimous, but in fact, she stepped to Asher and ignored the fact that he already had a fiancé. They were quite a match. The more I looked at them, the more I thought they were a match. Anyway, I've already mentioned the breakup. I don't care who tries on the wedding dress or who marries Asher. Anyway, hadn't fulfilled my session. It won't be me who will be embarrassed in the end. So I smiled at Asher and said in a calm tone, "I have no objection. It's up to you." 4 days before the wedding, I set off for Hong Kong City. After boarding the plane, I found that Finn was sitting in the seat next to me. He was wearing sunglasses and leaning against the seat back, as if he was catching up on sleep. I hesitated for a moment and didn't wake him up. Unexpectedly, he could sleep for a long time. He didn't wake up until the plane landed. At that time, I had just turned on my phone to browse my moments. I saw that Luna had posted a 9-square grid photo of trying on the wedding dress. "You said you liked every one of them. Which one should I choose?" It was posted 20 minutes ago. but there wasn't a single like. I guessed that it was only visible to me. On a whim, I liked her post. Almost at the same time, Asher sent me a message. You should have landed by this time. Hurry up and choose one. He sent several photos of Luna in a wedding dress. I didn't know if it was intentional. But in each photo, Asher only took a picture of Luna's net and didn't show her face. I was too lazy to open the pictures and look at them. I replied, as long as you like it. The next second, a deep voice suddenly came from beside me. He treats you like this. And you still want to marry him? I was so scared that I trembled. When I turned around, I met Finn's dark and deep eyes. I let out a sigh of relief, patted my chest, and stabilized my voice. I won't get married. Finn looked at me suspiciously for a while, then relaxed his expression and put on his sunglasses again. That's right. As for men, out with the old and in with the new. The cabin door opened. Finn pushed me off the plane and said cheerfully, "Let's go. Yuki. Since we're in Hong Kong City, I'll treat you to a breakup celebration dinner." Finn's mother is from Hong Kong City. Hong Kong City is half of his hometown. He took me to a restaurant on the peak of Hong Kong. The magnificent night view of Hong Kong was in full view. I was fascinated by it. Do you like it? I turned around and saw Finn's smiling eyes staring at me without blinking. There were stars all over the sky behind him. The neon lights were flashing in the distance. I suddenly remembered the two famous lines in Fragment, and my heart trembled involuntarily. Yes, yeah, I do. Thank you. I'm glad you like it. It wasn't in vain coming here. Finn smiled. Unlike his sharp image on the stage, he picked up the glass and swirled the champagne. Yuki, now that you've escaped from the sea of bitterness, don't look back. I wish you a bright future and a glorious journey ahead. I was in a trance for a moment. He said the same thing as Yuki. I once thought that since Asher and I had been together for 7 years and experienced so many ups and downs together, our future relationship would only be stronger and more stable. But reality slapped me hard in the face. During the month when I made the decision to break up, I struggled, doubted, and regretted. I was afraid of being laughed at. I was afraid that my 7-year effort would be easily denied. But neither Yuki nor Finn was torn about my past. They just sincerely wished me a good future out of kindness. Yuki is my family. As for Finn, I thought I wasn't familiar with him. He is a favored one of heaven who is adored by everyone. And I'm just a work partner he appreciates at best. But now it seems that Finn has already regarded me as a good friend. Both gratitude and guilt welled up in me at the same time. I picked up the glass. With tears in my smile. Finn, hadn't felt my sigh. Thank you. The car stopped at the entrance of the hotel. I suddenly remembered something. Did you read the lyrics I gave you the day before yesterday? Do you want them? In terms of work, Finn and I are old partners. Back then, he secretly entered the entertainment industry without telling his family. He had no background and couldn't get good resources. I wasn't famous. And my lyrics were cheap. He didn't mind and even liked them very much. All 10 songs on Finn's first album were written by me. That year, he came back with many awards from the Golden Melody Award ceremony. I was also lucky enough to win an award and became more famous along with him. Perhaps because we felt a mutual appreciation for each other. We became used to it later. We would send each other the works we had written to take a look. If he wanted it, he would take it and compose the music. If not, I would find someone else. So when I finished writing the lyrics that day, I sent them to Finn immediately. But 2 days passed, and he didn't reply to me at all. Now, face to face, I found that he didn't look very well. He looked at me with a serious expression for a few seconds and then suddenly said, "Yuki, asking me to sing a breakup love song is a bit too bitter. Isn't it?" Huh? I was a bit confused. It wasn't the first time he had sung a bitter love song before. But when I thought that he had just celebrated my breakup, I suddenly felt a bit embarrassed. It is a bit bitter. It's normal that you don't like it. I'll ask someone else. Before I could finish, Finn interrupted me. Once you give it to me, it's mine. But. He paused and then sighed, leaning closer. Yuki, write a sweet song. I know you can do it. My breath caught. I could tell that Finn wasn't just asking me for the lyrics. He hoped that I could get out of the shadow as soon as possible and find happiness again. He was very close. And his eyes were dark and bright. I could almost see my own reflection in his pupils. After the hesitation, doubt, and timidity, I gradually curved my eyebrows and eyes and showed a confident smile. Okay. I promise you. The salon was held on the afternoon of the next day. Many senior colleagues in the same industry attended. The organizer of the event was a capable, free-spirited, and radiant woman. I liked her very much. After building up my courage several times, I hid my shyness and mustered the courage to ask her for her contact information. The event ended 3 hours later. When I left the venue, I saw Finn waiting at the door. He nodded and smiled at me. Then he raised his hand and said to the person behind me, "You didn't bully our Yuki, did you?" I turned around and saw Ava walking towards me with a smile. Wearing high heels. She gently stroked my arm. Then she unceremoniously swung her fist and hit Finn on the shoulder. "You specifically told me not to. So how could I bully her?" Finn smiled and took the punch. Then he affectionately put his arm around Ava's shoulder. Ava didn't break free and turned back to look at me tenderly. "If you're not busy, Yuki, hadn't fulfilled my obsession. Why don't you have dinner with us siblings?" It was only then that I learned that Ava was Finn's cousin. The invitation to the salon that I received was also sent to me by Ava at Finn's request. I was deeply touched. Finn let out a low sigh. "Thank you. Let me give you a gift." Finn's eyes lit up. "Will you give me anything I like?" I nodded. My attitude sincere. "Yeah. I'll give you whatever you like. With my current income, I can afford almost anything except luxury cars and mansions." But Finn fell silent. He just looked at me intently with his wet eyes. Until I felt uncomfortable all over. Eva coughed softly. "All right. You two can talk about the gift in private later." After a pause, she asked me gently, "Yuki, I'm getting married tomorrow. Can you stay in Hong Kong City for one more day to attend my wedding?" I was stunned. She's getting married tomorrow. But she was still working today. No wonder I like Eva. I think she's shining brightly. And even her smile is full of strength. Looking at myself, when I received the invitation to the salon, I really wanted to attend. But because the event was held 3 days before my wedding, I was hesitant and struggled with internal conflicts. I didn't buy the plane ticket to Hong Kong City until I broke up with Asher. Compared with the people I like and admire, I'm really lacking a lot of determination and freedom. Or perhaps, the 7-year relationship made me overly dependent on Asher. It made me ignore the fact that I actually have a career that I love and am proud of. I'm also satisfied with the value and emotional affirmation that my work brings me. A mature and healthy relationship should add luster to life. That shouldn't be like me, focusing on one thing and neglecting another and forgetting my original intention. I pursed my lips, put away the bitterness in my heart. And my heart seemed to be inspired. I asked Eva cautiously, "Is it really okay?" Eva smiled brightly. "Of course. I like you and believe that we will become good friends in the future. So I hope to receive your blessing." My eyes were moist. And my nose was sore. During the 7 years I was with Asher, it seemed that I had devoted my whole heart to him. I haven't made new friends for a long time. Weddings in Hong Kong City pay attention to grandeur. Eva's family is one of the top wealthy families in Hong Kong City. And Ava's wedding was particularly grand and magnificent. The people who could only be seen in the financial evening news all showed up. Reporters and cameramen with invitation letters around their necks shuttled among them. I didn't know anyone else. So Ava entrusted Finn to take care of me. He did his duty and stayed by my side without leaving for a moment. He even slightly turned his body to block the camera from me when the camera turned towards us. I smiled. "It's okay." Finn frowned slightly and confirmed with me in a low voice. "No. You'll be scolded. The day after tomorrow is my wedding with Asher. Although I proposed to break up, Asher didn't believe it and hasn't issued a statement canceling the wedding yet. Once the picture of me going to Hong Kong City alone to attend the wedding and being inseparable from Finn spreads, there will inevitably be a lot of discussion on the internet. Often at such times, People won't care about the truth of the matter, but will just make judgments based on the pictures. It will only be me who gets scolded, not Asher. That's why Finn blocked the camera for me. But the fact is that I proposed to break up. It's his stupidity that Asher doesn't believe it. Why should I cover up the fact that I attended my good friend's wedding for the sake of a fool? What's more, Finn is standing beside me. He's not afraid of being scolded. So what am I afraid of? When Finn saw my firm attitude, he suddenly smiled. He stood back and said to himself, "Then I have to find Ava later and ask the media to release the good-looking photos. Don't be blind and release those ugly photos that will ruin my image." As he spoke, he unobtrusively moved half a step towards me. I held back my laughter and thought that after all these years, Finn still hasn't gotten rid of his vanity. But when I turned my head, I realized that Finn was very close to me. So close that I could clearly see a small shadow cast by his eyelashes. It was like the wings of a butterfly, fluttering. When I was looking at it seriously, Finn suddenly turned his head and raised his eyebrows with a smile. "Am I good-looking?" I quickly averted my gaze, feeling like a voyeur. My heart was beating very fast. A place that was frozen and silent cracked open quietly, letting in the clear sunlight. I returned to Beijing at noon the next day. After the plane landed, I turned on the internet. Only then did I find that I was on the trending topics. The Hong Kong city media released photos of the guests at Ava's wedding, and there were several photos of Finn and me in them. Fortunately, hadn't fulfilled my obsession. Finn is not an idol, and his fans are not against me. They blindly praised Finn for being handsome and me for being beautiful. They looked forward to Finn releasing a new album soon and hoped that we would cooperate more. Well, like idol, like fan, the fans, just like him, are both beautiful, handsome and kind-hearted. But while I managed to avoid Finn's fans, I couldn't avoid the vast number of netizens. They condemned me for not taking the wedding seriously and for betraying Asher's feelings. When the trending topic was about to enter the top 5, a gossip account released a video of Asher accompanying Luna to try on a wedding dress. Unlike before, this time, Asher's face was not blurred by a mosaic, but was in particularly high definition. Even the smile on his face when he leaned over and put the necklace on Luna by her ear was clearly captured. The direction of public opinion changed. It turned out to be President Asher doesn't abide by male virtues and cheats on his fiancé before marriage. And Yuki is so heartbroken that she leaves for Hong Kong City. The exaggeration of the title taken by the gossip account is no less than that of the Hong Kong media. As soon as this article was published, it topped the trending topics list. When netizens pitied me and scolded Asher and Luna, an enthusiastic met us and revealed the deeds of the two of them in high school. Asher likes Luna, and everyone in our class knows it. If Luna hadn't gone abroad, Yuki wouldn't have been in the picture later. I'm crying so hard. After being apart for 10 years, he still loves you when he comes back. This is true love. Bullshit true love. Cheating is cheating. Don't use the excuse of the first love coming back to cover up the fact that he's a scumbag. Even if they were once in an ambiguous relationship, they should avoid suspicion when they know that someone has a fiancé. Adults shouldn't be so lacking in sense of propriety. I heard that the wedding dress Luna wore on the red carpet last week was originally Yuki's wedding dress. Asher is such a scumbag for lending it to Luna. No wonder they had to try on the wedding dress at the last minute. It turns out that the wedding dress had been worn. Yuki is really miserable. How many 7-year periods are there in a person's life? When I was reading the arguments in the comments with great relish, Asher called. His voice was anxious. And he told me that there were reporters waiting for me at the airport. He asked me to follow the staff and use the VIP channel to leave the airport. But still, some reporters got the news. When I arrived at the parking lot, there were already many reporters waiting. Asher protected me and got into the car. But he himself was surrounded by reporters. President Asher. Have you broken up with Yuki? Will the wedding tomorrow be held as scheduled? What exactly is your relationship with Luna? Do you really like her? Were you aware that Yuki went to Hong Kong City with Finn? What's your opinion on this matter? Surrounded by a sea of microphones and cameras, Asher's face was as cold as frost. He grabbed the reporter who suspected him of cheating and said through gritted teeth, The wedding will be held as scheduled. I love Yuki. And we won't break up. Luna is just my friend. I didn't cheat. After saying that, he squeezed into the car with the help of his bodyguards. He slammed the car door shut, isolating all the noise. Asher hadn't been treated so rudely for many years. After getting in the car, he had a cold face and remained silent. I looked at his angry appearance coldly and couldn't help laughing. Asher suddenly turned his head, frowning. He seemed to want to say something but stopped. I was too lazy to pay attention to him. I faced the window and closed my eyes to rest, until the car turned into the community and stopped steadily in the underground parking lot. I unfastened my seat belt. As soon as my hand touched the car door, Asher pressed it down. He had endured it all the way and couldn't hold it in any longer. Yuki. Believe me. I really didn't cheat. Looking at his nervous and helpless appearance, I suddenly felt the urge to tease him like a dog. Have you slept with her? Asher shook his head firmly. No. Then you must have hugged her. Right? He was stunned for a moment and didn't say anything. You must have kissed her too. Right? Asher's face turned pale instantly. His lips twitched, and his voice trembled. Yuki. I let out a cold snort. All of Asher's answers were within my expectations. The reason why he can still firmly assure me that he didn't cheat now is that he is still holding on to the lowest moral bottom line in his perception. He didn't sleep with Luna. But it's not just physical infidelity that's considered betrayal. Asher's previous actions have already shown that the scale of love in his heart has long tilted towards Luna. In the face of the truth, all explanations are particularly pale. Asher. This is really boring. If you like Luna, just say it directly. Why do you have to entangle with me? Asher was like a cat that had suddenly been stepped on its tail. He grabbed my arm and wouldn't let go. What about you? How come I didn't know that you know this Ava and are so close to Finn? He stared at me intently, determined to find 1,000 faults in me. I can guarantee that I didn't cheat. Can you? Slap. A clear and loud slap sounded in the car. I was so angry that my whole body was shaking. Asher. Don't think of me as disgusting as you are. Asher turned his head aside, breathing heavily. It took him a long time to raise his head, and there was confusion and regret in his eyes. Sorry. Yuki. I'm sorry. Maybe I've done a lot of wrong things before. It's my fault. We're getting married tomorrow. After tomorrow, let's never be apart for the rest of our lives. Okay? Looking at his crazy self-talk, I felt even more irritable. What's more, the car door was locked by the central control, and I couldn't open it. During the argument, Asher's phone lit up. He instinctively glanced at me and hesitated for a moment before answering the phone. The next second, his face changed drastically. Luna slit her wrists. I have to go to her. You've been on a business trip for several days and must be tired. Go back and have a good rest. You'll be the most beautiful bride tomorrow. I laughed out of anger. I immediately pushed the car door open, got out of the car, and walked into the elevator without looking back. Perhaps out of guilt, Asher took the initiative to send me a message in the afternoon to explain. Luna committed suicide by slitting her wrists due to unbearable online abuse. She has no family in the country, and I'm her only friend. I can't just leave her alone. Yuki, idadalal sorry. I promise I won't delay tomorrow's wedding. Please don't be angry. Okay? At that time, I was writing another song that I had promised Finn. But my mind was completely blank. I had been sitting in front of the computer for over an hour. Yet I couldn't write a single word of the lyrics. I was already extremely annoyed. Seeing Asher's crazy message made me even more irritated. So I simply threw my phone aside. I buried myself under the quilt and went to sleep. It was not until the sun set and night fell. I was awakened by the vibration of my phone. Finn sent several WeChat messages in a row. I didn't want to disgust you originally, but I was afraid you'd be soft-hearted, so I still have to give you a wake-up call. I asked the nurse. It's just a small wound. It would have healed if she had come half an hour later. She made such a big fuss as if someone had died. She's so melodramatic. There were several photos taken in the hospital room after that. Luna looked haggard and was crying pitifully. Asher was feeding her water, tucking her in, and wiping her tears. In the last photo, they were embracing on the hospital bed. They were kissing passionately and obliviously. It was really an eyesore. I regretted opening the picture. I didn't know how to reply to Finn for a moment. While I was hesitating, Finn called me directly. His voice was tense and anxious. "Did you see my messages? Are you angry? You didn't even reply to me." Angry about what? I didn't understand what he meant for a moment. So I simply asked the question that was puzzling me. "Why did you go to the hospital? Are you sick?" He was full of energy at the wedding in Hong Kong City just yesterday. The other side was silent for a few seconds. After a long enough silence that I began to wonder if the call had been disconnected, Finn suddenly spoke. "Well, I'm a bit under the weather. So, Yuki, would you be so kind as to accompany me to a dinner?" As soon as I heard his tone, I knew Finn was joking. After getting in the car, I was even more certain of this. After I gave him a glare, Finn chuckled. "I'm fine. I went to the hospital just to visit a friend. I didn't expect to run into that pair of drama queens by chance." It was obvious who the drama queens were. I smiled and wasn't angry. Just then, Lanakoya Naya sorry. The screen of my phone lit up. Luna sent me a photo. The man's upper body was naked, and he was sleeping soundly on the pillow. The clear dark red scratch marks on his shoulders, and that revealed what a passionate lovemaking session he had just had. It was ridiculous. Even though Asher had made such high-sounding excuses, he still gave in to his primitive desires, and crossed the last line of his moral bottom line. "Luna, he gives me everything I want. He doesn't like you at all. Why do you insist on marrying him?" I held back my nausea, and saved the picture. I replied to her, "Then you marry him." It happened to be a red light. Finn caught a glimpse of my phone screen out of the corner of his eye, and looked worried. "Are you okay?" I let out an sound. I thought he looked a bit cute when he was so nervous. "Don't worry. I've long expected that he would betray me. I'm already immune to it." "Then why do you still look so worried?" I smiled bitterly. I explained that I was in a bad mood, not because of Asher. It was purely because I lacked creative inspiration and couldn't write the lyrics. After hearing this, Finn's tense mood gradually dissipated. "I'll take you to a place." When the green light came on, he turned the car around and drove towards the other side of the city. Half an hour later, the SUV stopped at the western mountain. He skillfully took out the camping tent from the trunk. After setting it up, he sat on the camping chair, patted the spot beside him, and handed me an open bottle of beer. "Yuki, heading for Felwed Sashin. I invite you to watch the sunrise with me." My heart suddenly felt a pang of soreness. In fact, I had suggested watching the sunrise to Asher many times before, but he always vetoed it. At first, he said that he was too busy making money and didn't have time to accompany me. Later, when his career was booming, he said that it was not safe in the mountains at night. I didn't have any friends and couldn't find anyone I could trust to go with me. So this matter was postponed again and again, until we broke up. I never expected that the first time I would watch the sunrise in my life would be with Finn. "Finn, hadin fulfilled Fiancé. Thank you. You've been taking care of me and helping me these days in Hong Kong City. I don't even know how to express my gratitude." The stars were twinkling behind Finn. His eyes were also filled with stars. Yuki, I hope that one day, you won't have to say thank you to me." I was stunned for a moment. I realized what he meant later. But as adults, we had a tacit understanding and didn't bring it up. The night sky was beautiful. And it was cold in the mountains. I was wrapped in a blanket. Seeing that he was only wearing a windbreaker in the cold wind, I felt sorry for him. "Do you want to come under the blanket too? Your blanket is quite big. It should be enough for 2 people." Finn looked at me expressionlessly for a long time. It was as if he was examining something. Just as I couldn't hold back and was about to explain, Finn suddenly leaned closer and opened his arms to spread out the blanket. The blanket covered both of us. Finn hugged me. The time waiting for the sunrise was boring and long. But when the first ray of sunlight shone into my eyes, all the waiting and effort were worth it. In the orange sky, Finn smiled at me and said, "Yuki, it doesn't matter if you can't write the song you promised me for a while. You can take your time. No matter how long it takes. I'm willing to wait. There were tears in my eyes. Finn let out a low sigh. I'll try harder so that I won't make you wait too long. Asher's perspective on the wedding day. Asher was late. When he was sending Luna home last night. She tugged at Asher's sleeve. Asher. Every time I close my eyes now. I can hear countless voices scolding me. I'm scared. Can you stay and accompany me? Asher caught a glimpse of the clearly visible red marks on her wrist. He suddenly softened. Everything that happened that night was natural. Asher forgot the words he had said to Yuki in the car during the day. He crossed the last line that he regarded as self-discipline. Early the next morning. When Asher was awake and by his assistant's phone call, there were only 2 hours left before the wedding ceremony. He hurriedly got up from Luna's bed. After repeatedly urging her to stay at home and not go out today, he rushed to the wedding venue as fast as he could. When he arrived, he found that Yuki hadn't come yet. He couldn't get through to her on the phone. She didn't reply to his WeChat messages either. Asher finally started to feel panicked. He pretended to be calm and comforted himself. Yuki might just be stuck in traffic on the way. And her phone happened to be out of battery. Thinking like this, he changed into his suit and styled his hair. After everything was ready, he stood by the window waiting for her. But until half an hour after the scheduled time of the ceremony, and with the guests making a lot of noise, Yuki still didn't show up. Asher almost went crazy. He turned around and saw Luna standing at the door in a wedding dress. She looked at him with wet eyes. Looking extremely charming and attractive. Asher. Yuki has let you down. She doesn't deserve you. I have no relatives in the country. I came back just to see you. You know I like you. If you're willing. I'm willing to quit the entertainment industry and marry you. Asher's eyes were cold. And he said firmly. I'm not willing. He raised his hand and took the dime and crown off her head. That was a gift that Asher had bought at a high price at an auction in Europe after Yuki agreed to his proposal. Asher's gaze fell on the crown. And his voice was filled with a chill. Don't touch Yuki's things without my permission. Yuki was a bit surprised and tried to tug at the corner of Asher's clothes. Asher disgustedly avoided her. He stared at Luna intently. And a feeling of dislike that he had never felt for her before welled up in his heart. He had clearly told her to stay at home. But she had to go out. She even put on Yuki's wedding dress and deluded herself into thinking that she could marry him. Asher remembered the arguments between him and Yuki. He suddenly thought that Luna was the culprit. If only Luna hadn't returned to the country. Asher thought silently. Then Yuki wouldn't be angry. And she wouldn't be so angry that she wouldn't even attend a wedding. It was all Luna's fault. I was awakened by a rapid knock on the door. I picked up my phone to check the time and found that I had forgotten to charge it after coming home in the morning. And it had already turned off. I rubbed my head. Plugged the phone into the charger. And then went out to open the door. When I opened the door, I saw Asher standing outside with a stern expression. He was wearing a neatly pressed white suit, and his hair was immaculately styled. It seemed that he had just come from the wedding. Seeing me looking half asleep, Asher's chest heaved. And his voice seemed to be squeezed out between his teeth. Yuki, without a low sigh. Do you know that today is our wedding? It was the same old story. It was really boring. I yawned and felt a bit impatient. I already told you a week ago that we broke up. What wedding are we still talking about? Asher's pupils constricted. And he suddenly raised his voice. What breakup? I didn't agree. If you feel wronged because I lent the wedding dress to Luna, you can quarrel with me. You can make a scene with me. Why did you mention breaking up just because of such a small thing? What do you take our 7-year relationship for? How can you discard it so casually? It was ironic. The perpetrator was hysterical. Trying to cover up his crimes and shift all the blame onto me. But I wouldn't admit it. Asher. The one who betrayed this relationship first was you. Not me. Asher stuck out his neck and retorted firmly, I didn't. I sneered and said to him. Wait a moment. Then I closed the door and went back to the room to get my phone. When I came back, I opened the door and handed the phone to Asher. Take a look for yourself. Asher frowned and took the phone. His expression instantly froze. I showed him the moments that Luna had posted only for me to see before. As well as the bed photos from last night. Yuki. He trembled and tried to touch my hand, but I disgustedly pulled it away. Asher. If it weren't for the 7 years we've been together, I would have broken up with you the night you missed my birthday and lied to me about going on a last-minute business trip. Asher's face turned pale, and he didn't dare to look me in the eyes. I sighed and continued, the sunk cost of 7 years is very high. I needed to know where this relationship went wrong. The result is clear. I've been upright and have a clear conscience. The only one who is deceived and betrayed from beginning to end is you. You clearly have feelings for Luna. But you were reluctant to break up with me. You were being greedy. Just like the feudal dregs. You wanted to have your cake and eat it too. Asher. You treated me badly and owe me. You're just a piece of trash. Asher's body swayed. He trembled and held the dime and crown in front of my eyes. As soon as he opened his mouth, he was in tears. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yuki. I was wrong. I'll admit it if you hit me or scold me. We used to love each other so much. Can you not give up on this relationship? His eyes were red from crying. I was still calm in my heart. No. I pushed him away a bit and said coldly. Asher. You should remember the words I said when I agreed to your confession. At that time, I said that if I wanted love, I wanted 100 love. If you couldn't give it to me, I would rather not have it. After I finished speaking, Asher's hand dropped weakly. He swayed and took a few steps back, falling against the wall behind him. I had said everything I needed to say. I lowered my eyes and closed the door without any hesitation. I yawned. When I was about to go back to my room to catch up on sleep, the door of the bathroom opened. Finn had a messy hair like a chicken's nest. He was holding a blanket in his left hand and a pair of sneakers in his right hand. Standing at the door of the bathroom, he looked at me with a wronged and innocent expression. Then I remembered that when Finn sent me back in the morning, I saw that he was also extremely tired. Worried about his driving fatigue, I asked him to stay at home to catch up on sleep. I was so confused when I just woke up. I actually forgot about this. You up. Why did you hide in the bathroom? And he was holding so many things. He sniffled and said in a wronged voice. Asher's hoarse voice sounded like there were several people shouting. I didn't know if there were reporters following behind him. I was afraid that something inappropriate would be photographed. And then you would be scolded by netizens again. Finn had beautiful eyes. With this wronged expression, he looked just like a wronged little dog. I smiled and averted my eyes. And my gaze swept over the clock on the wall. Do you want to sleep for a while longer? Finn put the blanket on the sofa and rubbed his head. No. I'm hungry. As soon as he finished speaking, my stomach also growled. We both laughed at the same time and walked into the kitchen together. Suddenly, Hasha, there was a loud bang outside. Through the window, I saw Maybet crashing into the flower bed. The reporters who had followed Asher gathered around and dragged him out of the driver's seat. There was blood on his forehead, and his arm hung down weakly. He was completely unconscious. Asher had a broken arm and stayed in the hospital for half a month. During these half a month, the news about him and Luna flooded the internet. Luna's image was greatly damaged. The directors and investors that Asher had originally introduced to her all avoided her like the plague. No drama production company was willing to accept her anymore. I heard that Luna was in a desperate situation and went to the hospital to beg Asher. But Asher didn't see her at all. On the day Asher was discharged from the hospital, he called and wanted to see me. I didn't agree. That afternoon, I received a courier. It was that antique crown full of diamonds. Finn arrived at the same time as the courier. When he saw me staring at the crown in a trance, he asked in a strange tone, Yuki, is it beautiful? Seeing that he was so angry, and he seemed to be steaming with anger, I quickly shook my head. No. It's not beautiful. I stuffed the crown back into the box and then contacted the staff of the auction house to come and pick it up later. I would send it to the auction together with the pile of things that Asher had given me before to exchange for money and do charity. After tidying up, I asked Finn, why did you come here suddenly? Is there anything wrong? He still stared at me with that fierce expression just now. Yuki, do you remember that you owe me a gift? I remembered the promise I made to him in front of Ava in Hong Kong City. Yes. I remember. Finn raised his eyebrows. You said that no matter what I wanted, you would give it to me. Does that still count? Then he got up and left. All of a sudden, Finn laughed. Then how about a kiss? Will you give it? I felt a tingling sensation in my heart. My breathing became disordered, and I instinctively closed my eyes tightly. But after waiting for a long time, the expected thing didn't happen. There was only a gentle kiss on my forehead. I opened my eyes in confusion and met Finn's cunning and smiling eyes. The next second, he pressed the back of my neck, leaned down and got closer. With a strong and lingering breath, he gave me a long and intoxicating kiss. Later, I completed the song that I promised Finn. It was different from all the other songs. This was my anniversary gift to Finn. After many years, Finn and I stood on the Golden Melody Award stage side by side again. His eyes were full of charm, and he smiled and said to me, "How lucky I am to like you, Yuki." The end of the full text.